Welcome back to the Don't Write That Book podcast, where you can learn how to write your bestseller and own your authorship. Follow along with us as we give you an insider's view of the book industry. Now, here are your hosts, myself, Mike Michalowicz, and AJ Harper.
You know what's nice, AJ, is while we took we didn't pick the date and time.
Just did it again.
Stop. Or should we just go? Let's just go.
Okay, well, let me just say, let's be real. You and I are going to pick a date.
Yeah.
We're going to try to go into our calendars, which looks like, insanity. And then Sade and Aaron are going to be like, nah.
No. All right. So.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
they're still going to come back and say,
here's what you got to do.
Why did you think you could do that?
Yeah.
So I think what we have to do is say, hey, this is what we're looking to do. Lovely, talented, supportive Aaron and Sade. Could you find a day there where we could do a live DWTB podcast, and then they will tell us the date?
Perfect. Okay, that's the way to do it.
Don't you think?
That's the better way to do it.
They're still going to be like, yeah, it's nice that you figured that out, but no.
But no, that's not going to work. Okay, that's better. You know what distracted me? Because I was like, during this break, we'll cover that. In came an order for the collector's edition of The Money Habit. And they keep dripping in every few hours for the last week or two. So we started this promotion. And what it is, and I hope every author listening in does something like this. There are opportunities to promote demand for your book without sacrificing demand during the launch day. So there's traditional pre-orders where I say, hey, I have my new book coming out. It's called The Money Habit. Please order it today. But when the launch comes, for me to say, hey, The Money Habit's now here. It's available. Please buy it. You'll say, well, I already bought it. So the question that I ask is, well, what are people willing to purchase today and builds momentum and encourages them to purchase the book on the launch day? I want to generate revenue because I use that revenue to sell the books or market the books to
marketing dollars.
Pardon me?
Marketing dollars
to facilitate further distribution through sometimes even subsidize like a bulk move. So maybe there's a school that says, hey, we'd like to get it into our high school and we want 50 students reading The Money Habit, but we have no budget. We can use it for things like that. So marketing, distribution. So one way to do it is through your ARCs. An ARC is an advanced reader copy, so an ARC. And traditionally what ARCs are used for is they go out to the media, so maybe podcasters or traditional media, for people to check out this book and then perhaps write about it, review it, maybe get on your podcast. So we bought extra ARCs and we stamp the ones that come off the print run as the first one. Literally the first one that comes out of the box is the first one off the print run, second and fourth, third and fourth. And we stamp them and we certify them. And we did 250 that are, I think, certified pre-release collectors, that we call them collector's editions. They still have typos in it. It's not the final copy. Content still and has been modified and changed. So it's not the final book, but people get a sneak peek at the book, up to 6 months in advance with these ARCs, or 4 months in advance in our case. And so they went out there, and I think we have sold, I want to say $15,000 to $20,000 of these ARCs at this point. I was blown away. And Kelsey's like, yeah, we're using that to facilitate further marketing of the books. But also those people that chose to purchase it, the benefit they're getting is a very early pre-read. So early access, they're the early adopters of a book. Secondly, is they may still choose to buy the book when it launches because they can compare the two and see how it's changed, how it's enhanced. And maybe it has even more significance. Maybe it acts as a totem of some sort, a reminder of their commitment to, in this case, financial independence.
I feel like it's super fans, though, are getting collector's edition.
Yeah.
Mike super fans.
Yeah.
I got to add, okay, wait a minute. You said typos. At what point did they do the galley? This galley is another term for it. At what point did they do the ARC?
The galley was readied about a month to 6 weeks ago, I believe.
Okay, so let me say, you do want to get the collector's edition. If it's still available, you're only doing 250 by the time this airs. They might be gone, but definitely check. But that we really did fix a bunch. So
And we
get
deleted a story. We added a couple lines. Like
we moved some stuff around to the point where we annoyed the publisher that we were moving some stuff around. So
the sequence changed.
If it's the version I think it is, don't forget that this is the one where I found the most errors.
Oh yeah, right. And I even sent you. Do you still have that picture? I scoreboarded. AJ and I, we do our review of the books or edits of the books together. For the first time, I didn't do a manual copy. Oh, there it is. So I have a little scoreboard and I framed it.
I keep it. It's prominent. It's prominent right behind me, so I can tell people all the time that I won.
And you know where you dominated, and it says it on there, is you're the echo queen. So echoing and when writing is when you use the same word repeatedly when you could replace it with a different word.
Unintentionally.
Unintentionally. Unintentionally. And so you were catching them left and right, and I didn't even look for echoes. So you were
there's good echoes and there's unintentional echoes.
Right. I have a dream as a good echo, by the way.
I'm really having a problem with my hair right now.
With your hair? All right, fix your hair.
I know it's not a thing, but I don't know how to do this with these headphones. And now that you reminded me that you're maybe doing something with this video footage,
you want to look the part.
I just think it's a mess. I think we just keep the mess.
Okay.
It's fine.
Fine.
It's probably fits my personality there's no way. Incidentally, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Y'all. Okay, listen. Amy Poehler has a podcast called Good Hang.
Yeah.
The very first one of the things she does is she has a conversation on Zoom or in the studio with a friend of the guest and asks that friend, what should I ask the guest? And it's cute. It's a cute little thing she does. The very first episode of Good Hang, she has a number of people, Seth Meyers, and the only one, a couple of people on to talk about Tina Fey and say, what should she ask Tina Fey? And one of the people she has is Rachel Dratch, who's on SNL and in lots of movies.
She's one of my favorite comedians. Her facial gestures.
God. But it happened totally by accident that Rachel Dratch could not get her headphones to work.
Yeah. And
she got stuck in them. But then also, she forgot she had food delivery. So I'm just going to say, y'all, if you just want to laugh, all you have to do is go on, you don't even have to watch the episode, but just go on YouTube just for that first episode hilariousness of Rachel Dratch completely unable to just handle it at all.
She had food delivery. That is so
She had food delivery. The dog barks. She's caught in the headphones.
Oh my gosh. She is so funny.
Yeah, you'll just laugh just watching and then of course watching all of them lose it because they love her and she's being, I guess, apparently exactly as Rachel is all the time.
Oh, I bet.
Anyway, just had to put that plug because that's if you need I need to feel good, I need to laugh, go do that.
So today's episode.
What are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, today's episode, we're going to talk about the emotional journey of authorship. You're listening to Don't Write That Book, where we want you to write the greatest book you can, not just a canned box book. We want it really to be a manifestation of your greatest self. Joined by AJ Harper in the virtual studio here. And I can see we are having some tech issues, but we're just going to roll through it because our backup recordings are going too. And what I admire about you, AJ, is you're the epitome of don't write that book. You wrote the greatest book in the space of writing. It's called Write a Must Read. You devoted the necessary years to writing that book. You've put in a relentless effort to getting the word out on it, including this podcast, and you're serving countless individuals. So many more people have written books that are so much greater than they would have been without you because of you. You're the epitome of the show. That's what I admire about you.
Oh, thanks. I admire about you that you're always willing to learn. So you don't feel like, we've all been in those rooms where people say, that's not, I don't need to learn anymore. I don't need to pay attention to this person. You're always paying attention. You're always paying attention. You're always taking notes. You're always finding things fascinating. You're always thinking what you can gain from listening to someone and looking for that nugget.
Oh, thank you. That means the world to me. We got an email from Josh Spodek.
He's one of my students.
He's an author of Sustainability Simplified.
Yes.
I've shared this on a prior podcast. He started a behavior in me that is now ingrained, and it's picking up garbage. I do it constantly, including today, anywhere. And I used to say to myself, when I'm in my town of Boonton, I will always pick up the garbage. And this was direction from Josh. Just a real simple process. No judgment of anyone else. I don't care if anyone else does it. I don't care if someone throws garbage down. I mean, I hope they don't, but I'm picking garbage up. I'm not going to rub it in someone's face like I'm doing something superior. But I noticed this behavior is so ingrained. I was in Asbury Park, New Jersey for a retreat, and I'm walking back after a jog from the beach to the house we're at, which is 6 blocks away. I came back with, I didn't have any container or anything. I was a handful of garbage, put it in the garbage, and it's almost subconscious now. So Josh, if you're listening in, thanks for that.
Let's read what he sent us.
Yeah. Could you read it?
Yeah. So he sent us this email. I have a request for a new episode. I'd love to hear your takes on the emotional journey of writing and its peaks. I hear quotes about and have felt the difficulty of writing, the torment of being unable to find the right way to say it, the fear of failing. I've also felt the euphoria of nailing an idea I've struggled with for months, realizing I found something the world will value. If you're open to share, I would love to hear the experiences of two experienced writers, and if you've had the emotional journeys and peaks, or if you've heard the emotional journeys and peaks of other experienced writers. So Josh, we're going to talk about that today.
You know what we likened it to, and we were prepping for the show. I mentioned to you, I'm amazed what a trap you are for stories. Because I did share with you that I did the Appalachian Trail, parts of it. It's called a sectional hike with my son, Jake. We are looking to do it again this year. Another
different section?
Yeah, different section. Mm-hmm. Some people hike the entire trail. It's all the way from Georgia to Maine. And so we hiked, I called it the Bear to Bear hike. It isn't a spec'd hike. It was just, we started in what was called Bear Mountain, New York. And the goal was to hike to...
I love Bear Mountain.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
That's my neck of the woods.
Yeah. So we started, exactly, it is. So we started in Bear Mountain, New York, hiking south. It's called Sobo, southbound, to Bear Swamp. And we passed all the Nobos, northbound, who were hiking. So many people start off in the spring. In the early spring, you start off in Georgia because it's warmer. And as you hike north, the climate's warming up as you go. So when you get to Maine, while it's in the summer, sometimes you even get there in the fall, it's still the warmer weather for the hike. What's so interesting is the second we started, my wife dropped us off at Bear Mountain. There's like that lodge type thing there. You actually think you can stay there. She dropped us off.
You can.
And so the Appalachian Trail crosses, there's that river, it crosses that bridge and goes into the Bear Mountain Park. So we started in the park and we start hiking up the first mountain filled with backpacks and stuff. And I'll tell you, you are in it within minutes. So my wife drops us off. We put the packs on and say, okay, this will be fun. And now you're starting to feel it and you're sweating and it's way too hot and we overpacked and all these different things. By the time we're at the top of the mountain, my son had depleted all of his water supply. And this is the first 45 minutes of the hike. We have an 8-hour hike in front of us before we camp for the first night. He's out of water. I'm halfway through my water. So I'm like, uh-oh. And now you're in the middle of nowhere. So we're at the top of the mountain and now we're on the trail and there's no one. You occasionally pass someone coming the other way. And it's like, I think we might, should we turn around? Like, what should we do? No, we committed this. There's this like, this isn't going to work. Then we continue hiking and then you start having this rebound. It's like, okay, this is not going to be that bad. And then the first cramp happens. My son's like, oh, my leg. And I'm like, oh gosh, here's the less of the water. And now we're out of water and they're at the top of the mountain and they're another mountain. And there's no one, which feels like for millions of miles. And we're out of water and we are thirsty. And we're like, what do we do? And do we abandon food? What do we do? And my son goes through the map and there's a creek that comes down the mountain that runs occasionally. So there's these maps that tell you where water sources are and how often it runs. And sure enough, we find it. And it is a fast drip, but it's a drip. And we're like celebrating that we found some source of water. And you can't just stick your tongue under it because of Giardia or Giardia or whatever that, there's all these bacteria and stuff. You got to put it through a filter system. But we're sitting there watching this water filter through and the elation that we're going to have water again. And you take the first sip and it's the best water you had in your life. And now you're coming down the mountain and you run into someone that's really bizarre and weird and wants to talk with you. And you don't know if you should be near this person. And it's like, what the hell's going on? It is all the emotions. And that was all within the first 8 hours. That's the experience of an author too.
Yeah. What I'm hearing though is that you probably didn't prepare as well as you should have.
We over prepared.
But then under-prepared.
And then under-prepared, which is great. We had way too much weight on. We ran into a hiker. So these hikers go by nicknames. His nickname was Strider. This was actually one of my favorite moments. So it's called trail name. So once you're on the trail, someone will give you a name.
Okay. They have to give it to you. You can't give it to yourself.
You cannot give yourself a name. Someone will give you a name somehow. There's these things called angels.
Did you get a name?
No, I did not get a name. Okay. There is these things called angel. One of the guys I was with got a name Mousetrap because a mouse ate through his tent as he was sleeping and curled up with him. So he became Mousetrap. There's angels on the trail. They call them trail angels. And you'll come across an opening. Sometimes the Appalachian Trail crosses roads and streets, just goes through the woods and it just winds on forever. And someone will park along the street. And this one dude had baked pumpkin bread. It was the best bread I've had in my life. I asked him, like, why do you do this? And he said, my wife passed away, I think it was like 3-4 years ago. He's like, this is how I connect with people. And he goes, I bake in the night before and I bring it out on the day of and I meet the coolest people on the planet. And this is my love, my passion.
So he lives there and he's just greeting
hikers that come through. And it's unbelievable. He's got chairs set up so you can just sit for a little bit and you're exhausted.
Aww.
And he said, he's got a trash can that you can give him stuff. We unloaded stuff. We said, listen, we have this gear that we're just never going to use. We have an air mattress. And while it sounds glorious to sleep on an air mattress at night, carrying an air mattress is terrible. And so like, here's a donation and he'll take those things. The journey is up and down. In retrospect, is the greatest thing that I've done with my son. And I think that's what authorship is. It's when it's all said and done, when there's that book on the shelf and you put every ounce of your suffering and joy into it, and you put every ounce of who you are into it. For me, AJ is the greatest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, for sure. Making something from nothing and then sharing it with people.
For you, is it more suffering? Is it more suffering? Is it more like, if you had to balance, if you had to say it's X% suffering, X% elation, like what's the emotional breakdown for you?
Well, okay, I have a different perspective because I consider the suffering, like I welcome the suffering. I think over time, I feel like the suffering is a sign that I'm making something. So yeah, I'm experiencing it. It's real. It doesn't feel good, but there's also, I know, I wouldn't be feeling that if I were just in my regular day-to-day. Because anytime that I'm working on a new project, I'm going to experience both suffering and joy. But if I'm not working on a project, I'm not going to experience either of those things in the same way. I'll experience other suffering and other joy that life hands us. But when it comes to making something, I feel like they go hand in hand. And so it sucks. But I tend to manage the suffering with dark humor, as is my way, and also the way of most of our generation.
Yeah,
is a major coping mechanism, gallows humor.
Yeah,
but ultimately, the suffering is great. So I have a different view of it, I guess. And I'm suffering right now. I'm working on 2 books right now. I don't think you know that.
The new one you're doing with Page 2?
And another one.
Oh, yeah, another one. So I know you're doing one with Page 2. You're keeping it top secret, so I don't know what it's about. But I know it's big. I had no idea. What's the second book about?
Also top secret.
Oh, 2 top secrets.
Well, just because the way I roll is I talk about suffering. I will suffer greatly if I share too much about books while I'm in the process of figuring out what they are.
Oh, that's interesting.
The worst suffering I could have is that I lose interest. And I'm just, I don't feel like it anymore. Who cares?
Yeah.
And if I talk too much, I don't think I need to write it.
Oh, that's interesting.
And now, once I've got a handle on what the book is, I'll talk about it all day. But in the creation mode, I don't want to get into it too much, because then when I sit down to work, I'm like, I already worked that out. I worked that out when I was talking to Mike. So who cares if I write it? And that's just something I learned about myself. I'm just quirky like that. So I have to be quiet and keep it close to the vest. And then once I feel like I know what this book is, I have a total handle on it, I'm going to talk about it all day. So that's just something weird. But I am experiencing the suffering right now because I'm also writing 2 books at the same time, which I thought I was done doing.
For me,
when I quit ghostwriting,
the suffering, how I think I would define it as, it's a exhaustion. It's a feeling of, is this enough already? Is it there? It's the sense of the book is degrading as I'm trying to improve it. That's actually the worst part, is when I'm trying to make the book better and I'm like, I think I'm making it worse. But it's an unwillingness and stubbornness not to take a break either. In fact, that's my biggest challenge. And it's also my biggest strength, right? It's this dual-edged sword. With the money habit, there was a period we were against deadline, and it was clear I needed to move. And so I started, I think it was like on a Thursday, and I wrote, it's funny, in retrospect, we talked about this, and you're like, this is how you live every day. But I wrote 12 to 15 hours a day. I told Chris, I'm going to be in the den. Like, I'm not going to be here. And her love language is quality time. So it's particularly hard for her. And I'm just cranking and cranking and cranking. But that also was a period of elation. Like, that was the best work, I think, of my life during that period. It was exhausting.
Yep.
And my eyes were spinning and I don't know what I was doing, but also there was this moments of flow.
Yes.
Yeah, so with guitar, there's these moments that happen. And I've experienced this. I've played the guitar since I've been a teenager. I've played it the same way since I've been a teenager until about 2 years ago. What they call cowboy chords, just lots of chords. 2 years ago, I said, I'm going to really focus in on this. And now I know how to solo. And I'm a solid intermediate. Before I was a solid beginner. Now I'm a solid intermediate. And there's these, what they call flow states. And it's interesting. It's where the mind no longer is actively processing at a conscious level. It becomes subconscious. And flow is a good word because it feels like just water flowing through a stream. It just works and there's no thought necessary. And the best performance comes out of that. During these suffering, painful sprints, most of it for me is not flow. It's a grind. And you can hear the gears clicking and it's rethinking. But then there's moments like, hold on, I think I just wrote 1,000 words over the last 2 hours and they're good. And I don't even remember the last 2 hours. So that's the part of the emotional trough. But I think there's a greater arc too. I'm wondering for you, AJ, like what's the emotional swings, if you have them, or state changes from the day of inception to the day it's on a bookshelf?
That's a good question. Before I answer it though, I just want to say, I think the root of all the suffering, hands down, is expectation. So I'm expecting what are people going to think? Or I expect from myself a certain level of experience while I write. I expect flow. I expect things to go easily. I expect the turn and phrase that I want to call forth. I want it to be right there when I need it. I expect it to be easy. I expect it to be clear. I expect people to love it. I expect to be fast. I expect I'm going to be early on my deadline. I expect everyone's going to love it immediately. All these things. It's just, first of all, prescription for disaster.
Yeah.
Absolute guaranteed suffering. Guaranteed suffering. So I think I don't suffer as much because I don't have a lot of expectation. Where I suffer the most is if I'm struggling and there's a deadline and I'm worried I'm not going to make it. That's the main struggle for me, which is funny because even though I sometimes have trouble making deadlines, I've written so many books. I don't even know the count anymore. dozens and dozens, probably over 100 books. So it obviously works out, but I don't worry about the rest of it so much, you know? Sometimes I do. Like when we switched over to the Money Habit, the thing about the Money Habit that was challenging for me is, well, two things. One was an expansion of the reader. When we've known the reader for so long, for 16 years, writing for the same reader, it's like, oh, this is my zone. This is my thing. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then it really kind of messed with me. And then at the same time, the thing that I love best about writing with you is the way that we are in constant communication. And you were so jammed that we didn't have as much time together. So then I felt nervous because the thing I was worried about, I couldn't really talk to you about that much. You know what I mean? So then that was suffering for me. But I think sometimes the suffering is unavoidable. It's not like you could be less busy. It's not like we could change who the reader was. You just kind of have to go keep muddling through, you know, till we finally figured that out. But that slowed me down. And then that slowing me down now I'm stressed. Now I'm stressed because I'm like, I don't have this. I don't have my thing. I don't have my mojo. That's suffering for me when I feel like I'm totally disconnected from my mojo. Like I got to get it so that I can move forward. And it's not a flow thing. It's more like, what's the vibe? What's the tone here? Like, what am I need that very clear idea of my reader and exactly, and in your case, your reader, so that I'm not just writing about concepts. I need to feel intimately connected to the reader. And it was such a shift that was suffering for me. And mostly because we had been writing for the same reader for so long. And it's so odd because I used to shift readers all the time when I was a ghostwriter. Oh, this person's reader, that person's reader. So. Could be a dozen a year. But I think I just got into like, I know the mic thing. I got that.
I want to ask you a how-to question, but I know our intention actually was to avoid that and just talk more about the feelings. So I'm going to deliberately not ask.
We're just supposed to talk about our feelings today?
Just our feelings.
Without fixing.
But I want to ask the bigger question again is just the overarching process from inception to shelf. Do you have stages of emotion or feelings that you could categorize?
Yeah. I mean, the initial idea is so fun. So if we're talking about you and I, when we go to retreat, what's better than retreat?
It's the best.
It's the freaking best. And we just entertain ideas and we get excited and we know when it feels right. And we're proud of ourselves and a little full of ourselves. And we just have a best time. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And it's the same for me. You know, one of the books I'm working on right now, when I realized I had to write it, I burst into tears, joyful tears. It was involuntary, just tears streaming down my face. And I think I was peeling potatoes for Thanksgiving at the time and talking to my wife. And that's when I realized, oh, dang, I'm going to write. That's what I'm writing. And
it's funny when moments like that present themselves.
Yes. And tears this is a soul book. So that's a moment of elation. The suffering comes from, oh wait, how am I going to do that? You know, because I could write it in essay format. I could write it as prescriptive nonfiction. I could write it as hybrid memoir. I could write it as interviews. I don't know. And you start to have all of this question, and that creates a little, I don't know if I call it suffering, mostly like, I think tension is what I would call it. I think there's some suffering when I'm trying to get that vibe piece again. Like what's the tone of this? Till I nail that, I feel frustrated. My biggest troll is the one that tells me I'm flat. There's no juice here. There's no nothing. Flat. If I can get past that, then I'm not suffering anymore. And I don't really suffer after that. I'll be honest. I accept the fact that it's a creative process and I don't know how it's going to shake out, and I'm good with that. And I think that's where most suffering is, not being good with that, not trusting that eventually it will turn into something. And that's why it's hard when you're a new writer. But if you're someone who's written a lot of things and you've seen a lot of things go from the spark of an idea to the completed project, you know you're going to end up there. You just don't know all the twists and turns, but you're cool with it. And I think if you can be cool with it, then it's less suffering.
So for me, the journey, it's almost, there's elements that's, I don't know, the peaks and valleys happen very quickly. On the same day, in the same moment, I may be exhausted and frustrated and then elated and thrilled. There's a breakthrough concept. I'm like, that's it. And then a minute later, I'm like, that's stupid. So there's all these kind of conflicting emotions and feelings. I think the overarching theme for me, it's kind of like a grind. It's like, okay, we're at the gym now, start the exercises, and it's going to be painful, but the gain happens through the pain. But I'll tell you the most interesting emotion, because it's almost a non-emotion, it's flat, is when a book launches, it isn't like Hakuna Matata or the Lion King's been announced. It's just like, meh. It's anticlimactic for me.
Really?
Yeah, it's after the launch, I look back like, hey, I'm really proud of what we've done with the Pumpkin Plan. I'm proud of the Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. But when it came out, it's like, meh.
That's interesting.
I would say there's actually, I know the exact moment, and I could say it lasts for about 3 to 5 seconds of like, all right. And what it is my drive, I've sorted with the electronic files, and there is a directory that says published books. There's a directory that says to be published books or future books. And there's one that says in progress. When we start one that says in progress, so the Money Habit right now it says in progress. On launch day, I drag that folder from in progress to published, and I'm like, yeah. And that lasts for about 3 seconds. And I'm like, meh.
That's so funny. You don't think of it as done? I think of it as done.
Oh, I don't think of it as done until it's in someone's hand. It's an old sales experience. Well, I observed in salespeople, because I started off my very first job, actually I was a programmer for a little bit, but then I became a salesperson. I know salespeople would consider the handshake the sale, and they come running back to the office, hey, there's a sale today. And the boss would say, oh, that's fantastic. Show me the order. Like, well, no, they just said they'd buy it. Oh, show me the check. No check. And shocking how many times the check would never come, the order would never be signed. And like, I'm never going to be that salesperson. To me, I'm not going to celebrate that I got a handshake. I'm not going to celebrate that a contract was signed. When the check gets deposited, we made the sale. And maybe that emotion or that management is the book is not published until the day it's published. And I know that's it.
Wow. Because see, when I turn in the last corrections for past pages, done. It's out. To me, the production team's off doing their thing. I have nothing left to do. And I realize there's still marketing to do. But to me, that's the act of creation. It's complete.
Interesting. Yeah, I wonder if that affects the way I perceive the book. Maybe that makes it anticlimactic, or maybe it makes it better. I don't know. You know what
you need to do? You need to take a page from my book. When I talk to my authors, I say you need to celebrate all the milestones. So I celebrate. I was pretty excited when I turned in the very last correction on past pages. I announced it to my whole community. Was really psyched about it, and I let it be a moment. You might need to celebrate some of the milestones along the way instead of just the one at the end.
There's a book from Dan Sullivan called The Gap and the Gain. And effectively, he argues that joy comes from measuring what we've gained, but most people focus on what we have yet to achieve, the gap, and frustration comes from that. Yeah, it's one thing I've been contemplating, because I know this is the feelings episode, just in life, and maybe I shared this on the show before, at the end of our lives, all of us, me, you, our listeners, are forgotten. Like it's over within a couple generations, unless there's the extreme exception. If you're Martin Luther King, you're Maya Angelou, you're going to last
Or a notorious villain.
Yeah, sadly. You'll last a little bit longer. But even that, you're just a name in a story. You're not you anymore. So to me, that's been very uplifting, because if nothing matters, that means everything matters, meaning every moment matters. If nothing matters in the future, then this moment becomes much more precious. And I know my books, your books, our books, too, will have their shelf life. And maybe they're gone, and maybe some of them come back from the grave and are rekindled and spark again. But at a certain point, it's all done. And therefore, the experience of writing and the production, I feel I exalt it more. It's more valuable because it is a precious moment. It's just something I've been reflecting on a lot in the last year, and making decisions around that too. I have a situation where it's dysfunctional, a certain situation. I'm like, oh, why am I choosing to tolerate this? The moments are so precious. It's not serving anybody in this situation. Take action on it, and it just that realization has become like, oh, that's super helpful. So the moments are more precious. And maybe it's in reflection of the suffering for me, like that painful sprint. I look back on that with a degree of appreciation and joy. So suffering actually becomes joyous afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, just like an athlete, if I have a long writing day and I feel strung out at the end of it and my brain needs to be quiet and I don't think I have anything left to give and I drank too much coffee, that's awesome. I just, I don't want to do it so much anymore. I'm 52, Yeah. But that used to be my way. And man, like a 14,000 word day. I don't even know how
a 14,000 word day. My gosh.
I don't even think I would try now, but I remember doing it. I remember doing it and it's like, I am on fire, you know? And I loved some of that suffering, actually. I actually liked it. But I think most of the suffering, like I said earlier, is tied to what we worry about what other people are going to think, or if we aren't going to meet some sort of expectation we've set for ourselves or that someone has set for us. And I'm free from that most of the time, just because I know I'm going to keep creating things. So when I say goodbye to one of your books, I'm on to the next. And it was a good day for me because I'm proud of it. But then also I know that now I can work on some of my own stuff. And I hope people love The Money Habit. I think that a lot of people will love The Money Habit. I think they'll be changed by it.
Yeah.
But, I don't remember to go look at reviews. I don't get caught up in any of that stuff. I might occasionally go and say, hey, what are people saying? But it's once in a blue moon. And I think there's unwarranted suffering. There's unnecessary suffering when we're worried about all that stuff, because it's ultimately the act of creation is not about that. It's not about how it's received.
It's attributed to Seth Godin. At least that's how I heard it. He was asked in an interview, do you read your book reviews? And he said, no. And then he said, well, why? He said, because I'm never going to write that book again. Which is, it's
true.
It's the absolute truth. One thing I admire about him specifically was, I don't know if he still does it, but I followed his blog for a long time. And sometimes there were these long posts. Often they were very short posts. But it wasn't SEO friendly. They weren't keyword optimized. They weren't any of that stuff. And what I observed is he was just true to what he wanted to put out there on a daily basis, irrespective of the expectations or the machinery put around him, and just saying, either it's going to accept it or not. And it sure did. And I wonder for us if that's what the journey's about. It's just, there's going to be all these emotional swings, but it's about the journey itself.
It is. That's what the creative process is. It's surrendering to it.
Yeah.
Most, when I'm working with authors, I have to do so much work to get them to just stay in it and to just try stuff.
Yeah.
Just try stuff. And so therein lies so much suffering. that fear, the intellectualizing of the creative process. Let me make sure this is going to work before I even try to do it. And the only way you're going to know if it's going to work is if you try to do it. So an artist knows that failing and suffering and mistakes are all actually part of the creative process. It's not, that's why I say I welcome it. I welcome the suffering because I know that it's part of making something from nothing. And I think we need a mindset shift. I know we're going in to fix it. We're kind of going in to fix it. But this is how I feel about it. So when we say suffering and joy, peaks and valleys, to me, they are two sides of this. You can't have one without the other. And if I'm suffering, it means I'm doing something.
My wife and I went to the wedding of our neighbors, our former neighbors, the Muties, and their youngest son got married. It was a beautiful wedding. At Renault, which is a vineyard in New Jersey, it's the second oldest vineyard in the United States, which just shocked me. It's in New Jersey.
In Jersey?
New Jersey.
Well, it is the Garden State.
It's gorgeous. It's in the kind of the beach area, central South Jersey. Renault, I think is how it's pronounced. My wife and I danced up a storm. In reflection, I was like, oh, I hated, now I'm doing air quotes, I hated dancing. Well, the reality was I didn't hate dancing. I was fearful of the judgment around how bad of a dancer I was. I was fearful of the expectations that I set for myself and how I'm going to flub them up or what other people would think and talk about. And so the solution was don't dance, and be that guy that sits on the side and arms crossed looking. And I behaved that way for the longest time. My cousin, Julie, she got married, and this goes back like 30 years ago. And I just said to myself, no one's going to remember. No one cares. Be in the moment. Just go out there and just dance like a fiend. Well, the Mutie wedding, my wife and I, they had like a videographer there. They were locked in on us because we just danced and danced and danced and danced. And I looked at it's particularly guys that do this. I looked all over and there's all these like husbands or boyfriends sitting there with their arms crossed and not participating and maybe doing the waddle back and forth a little bit. And I just let it out there. I think no one really noticed or no one cares. There's no storytelling. And if there is, it goes into the ether. Who freaking cares? But the experience for me, that was a great wedding because of how we participated in it.
Yeah, and I'm sure your wife was thrilled. And probably what people saw was two people who love each other having the best time.
Yeah. And this is who we are now. It wasn't just this wedding. This is who we are. And she's like, this is us. Like we bring the party. And I think it's with the book. Like, bring the party.
Bring the party.
Just do it. And when you start dancing and you just let it out there, when you dance without caring, maybe no one notices, but does that even matter? And then if someone notices, you get the videographer just filming you the entire night. I don't know.
Yeah. I think there's also something to, if you're a career author or not. So when there's a lot at stake, you say, I'm going to write this one book.
Yeah.
There's a lot at stake there. So I'm always thinking about the next thing I want to work on.
Yeah.
And I think that it's harder if you are putting all your eggs in this one basket. I need this book. This book needs to be amazing. This book has to be the one. This book has to be the one that changes everything for my readers or for me or whatever. And I'm not saying you shouldn't put your all into it. You absolutely should. But I think there is a letting go process. And so I think there's joy in letting go. I think that's where I experience a lot of joy is, okay, now it's out in the world, go forth.
Before I ask you about your final thoughts on the emotional journey, I do want to invite every single individual listening right now. So I'm talking to you, listener. Go to your favorite book retailer and get Write a Must Read by AJ Harper. It's the foundation for navigating this emotional experience as an author. AJ, what are your final thoughts? If you have any. Or did you exhaust them all? Did you put it all on the table?
I think I put them all on the table. I don't know. It's funny. Josh in his email said, when you try to, let me actually go back to it. He said, unable to find the right way to say it, the torment of that. It's so funny to me. I never think like that. And I suppose that's a little bit of my privilege as a person who's been a professional writer for a long time. But there's not one right way. That's what baffles me. There's not one right way. As long as people understand what you're saying, that's all that really matters. And it makes me sad, actually, to hear that the word that he's using is torment, and to hear it from my authors, how tormented they are. They might not use that word, but how stuck they are, how scared they are, how nervous they are. And I guess I just wish authors would see that there's always a way, and there's no right way. There's no perfect way. It can be any way, and to move on quickly. I wish people did. I hope again that you might say the suffering means I'm doing something. Because it's sad to me how many people don't finish because of the suffering.
That was AJ Harper, author of Write a Must Read. She's got 2 additional books coming out that no one knows what the hell they're about, but she does. And she's going through the emotional journey right now. So keep your eyes out for those books. My name's Mike Michalowicz. I got a brand new pre-order book out now called The Money Habit. Go to our website. It's DWTBpodcast.com. That stands for Don't Write That Book, podcast.com. We have tons of resources there for you that supplement and complement this podcast itself. Also, if you have any questions, comments, if you want to submit a topic, just like Josh did, that you want us to talk about, email us at hello@dwtbpodcast.com. Also, a reminder, AJ does have ajharper.com is the site to go to. She has the Top 3 workshop. You can elevate your authorship journey with AJ. We also have an imprint, we meaning Mike Michalowicz, called Simplified. It's with Page 2. If you're an author in the entrepreneurial space, maybe there's something to explore there. Thanks for joining us. Next week, we're going to talk about how do you know you're done. Now, this is part 1, the editing. This is the first part of a 2-part series on the writing and editing of a book. I think that's it, right? AJ covered all the fodder.
Yeah, we got all of it.
Got all of it. One last thing I want to share is this. You know this. Please don't write that book. Write the greatest book you can.